I was on the roof with a hammer in my hand when I heard her laugh. Not the sweet kind, the sharp kind, the kind you feel in your spine more than your ears. Her mom's house had a leak, again. She'd asked me to patch it since handymen are too expensive, and I, like the good little husband, showed up with my rusty toolbox and a sore shoulder from last week's yard work. No thanks. No hello. Just a text. It's leaking again. Bring your ladder. And there I was, sweating, sunburned, balancing on shingles that felt like sandpaper under my knees. Then I heard it. Her voice. Her laugh. Below me, in the yard, she stood with her sister and her cousin Brett, the one who always called me Man Bun, even though I don't have long hair anymore. They were drinking iced tea, not helping, not asking, just watching me like I was part of the entertainment. You see him, she said, giggling. He can't even swing a hammer without checking YouTube first. It's like watching a raccoon try to do algebra. They all laughed, and I sat there, holding the hammer like it was some kind of accusation. Like I was the joke. Like the years of doing her family's dirty work. Painting, fixing, lifting, building, meant nothing because I wasn't smooth or muscular or loud. I didn't say a word, not even when Brett said, "At least he's useful, like a human wrench." More laughter. I just stared down at my knuckles. They were bleeding. I hadn't noticed. All I wanted was a quiet weekend. Maybe a movie night. Maybe something simple like holding her hand while we walked the dog. But instead, I was a spectacle. A climbing monkey with a drill. This wasn't new. She used to whisper that I was cute when I tried, that I had quiet strength. But that faded. Somewhere between the fourth time I fixed her mom's dishwasher and the night she told her friends I was adorable when I cried during Pixar movies. They asked if she was serious. She said, "Oh yeah," like full-on tears. "He's got a soft little heart, bless him." She made soft sound like a disease. People talk about betrayal like it's about cheating or secrets. But sometimes betrayal is slow. It's 1,000 paper cuts. It's the person you love turning your kindness into a punchline. It's realizing your marriage became a stage and you're the clown. I climbed down the ladder. Slowly, carefully, my knees shaking, not from fear of falling, but from the weight of years. She looked surprised when I walked past them. Past her. Past the porch. "You're done already?" she called after me. I didn't answer. I opened the gate, got in my car, and drove off with the hammer still in my hand. That was the day I realized she didn't break me all at once. She chipped away, giggle by giggle, joke by joke, until I barely recognized the man in the mirror. And the silence I gave her, that was the loudest I've ever been. When I pulled into my driveway that night, I didn't go inside. I just sat there, engine off, hands still clutching the steering wheel like I was bracing for impact. My mind kept replaying her laugh from earlier, the way it curled at the edges, sharp and amused, like she'd been waiting for that moment. I couldn't figure out what hurt more, the words themselves, or the fact that she said them like I wouldn't care. Like I couldn't be wounded because I wasn't even human anymore. Just a tool, a background character in her perfectly filtered life. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the garage door like it might open on its own and swallow me. The house was quiet. The porch light was still on. I could see the folded laundry I left there that morning, stacked neatly by the door. I'd even separated her delicates from the towels. She hated when the fabrics mixed, said it ruined the texture. God forbid the woman have rough towels. I got out, walked up the steps slowly, and unlocked the door. I didn't turn on the lights, just stood there in the dark, listening to the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the wall clock. Her keys weren't on the hook. She wasn't home yet. Probably still out laughing. Probably didn't even notice I had vanished halfway through her joke. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, just staring at the magnets on the fridge, ones we'd collected from trips she barely remembered. Paris, Denver, the cabin in Tahoe where she got bored and left 2 days early. I started pulling them down one by one and tossing them into the trash. Not angrily, just deliberately, like deleting a file you know you'll never need again. Then I grabbed a duffel bag. Not a suitcase. I didn't want to look like I was making a statement. Just a bag big enough for essentials. 1 pair of boots. 2 button-downs. The hoodie she always said looked too safe. I took it anyway. It was mine before her and would be mine after. I didn't leave a note. No big goodbye speech. No poetic closure. I just left the way she taught me, quietly and without giving a damn about the mess I left behind. I stayed at a motel off Route 7 that night. Slept on a bed that smelled like lemon cleaner and stale dreams. I kept the TV on because I couldn't handle the silence. But it didn't help. The quiet wasn't in the room, it was inside me. The next morning, she called. 6 missed calls, then a text. Where are you? That was it. No, are you okay? No, I'm sorry. Just where are you? Like I was a missing screwdriver. I didn't reply, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I knew any word from me would just reset the cycle. She'd say I was overreacting. She'd say I was too emotional. She'd make it about how I embarrassed her by walking out like that. She always did that, made her cruelty my fault. By noon, the texts turned frantic. By 2 p.m., I had 12 voicemails. And I finally listened to one. She sounded mad. Not scared. Not heartbroken. Mad, you think this is cute? She snapped. You think walking out makes you a man? Come back and talk like an adult. Stop being so dramatic, Dwight. That was the moment it clicked. She didn't miss me. She missed controlling me. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I felt done. Not broken. Not emotional. Just done. And I wondered, what would happen if the joke she always laughed at never came back? I was in the middle of reconfiguring a client server when I saw her through the glass. Lydia, standing in the lobby of my office like she belonged there, holding 2 coffees like that could fix anything. One of them was my usual, black, no sugar. But the last time she handed me coffee, she followed it up by calling me timid in the boardroom and in bed. She didn't text this time, didn't call. She just showed up like she still had that power. Like her presence alone would erase the silence she didn't take seriously. I don't know what annoyed me more, the confidence in her walk or the way she kept smiling like this was some kind of romantic misunderstanding. Like I'd somehow forgotten to come home and all this was just a weird fluke. I walked out to the lobby, still in my work polo and khakis, and nodded at the receptionist. Lydia started to speak, but I cut her off. I've got 2 minutes, I said. Not for arguing, just for this. And I handed her the duffel bag I'd kept in my trunk since I left. Still packed, still untouched, still holding every small piece of me that she never appreciated. Her face shifted. That fake smile trembled for half a second. I saw confusion first, then offense, then anger. That was always the sequence with her. What is this? She asked, like she didn't already know. What's left? I replied. She looked down at the bag like it was a threat. You're being ridiculous. There it was. The word. Ridiculous. Her favorite insult masked as concern. You humiliated me in front of my family, she added, voice rising. Walked out like some dramatic movie character. Who does that? I didn't make a scene, I said. That was the problem, right? I never make scenes. She crossed her arms. You're acting like a child. I'm finally acting like a man who's had enough. I didn't raise my voice. I never do. But for once, I saw how that calm shook her more than any screaming ever could. Do you know what it felt like? I asked. To sit on your roof with bleeding hands while you laughed about me like I was some incompetent clown. Her mouth opened, then closed. She tried to speak, but no words came out. I wasn't giving her space to spin it. Not this time. I was fixing your mother's roof. For free. While you and your cousin mocked the man who's always been there when everyone else walked away. You're too sensitive, she finally said. It was just a joke. No, I replied. It was a pattern. She blinked. That stunned, scrambling for control look she only wore when things slipped out of her grip. I'm not coming back, I said softly. And I don't want you coming to my job again. You'd throw away a marriage over a few jokes? I took a deep breath. No, I'm throwing it away because I finally realized I'm the only one who ever saw it as a marriage. I turned and walked away. Didn't glance back. Not even when I heard her drop the coffee. For the rest of the day, I worked like I'd never worked before. Focused. Clear. Because when you've spent years being the punchline, taking yourself seriously feels like a revolution. It was 3 days after Lydia showed up at my office when my phone lit up with a number I knew too well. Her mother, Evelyn. The woman whose broken porch light I'd replaced, whose medicine cabinet I'd installed, whose leaky basement I had sealed with my own hands, twice. I almost didn't answer. I stared at the screen until it nearly went dark again. But something told me to pick up. Not out of guilt, out of curiosity. Dwight, she said, her voice already trembling. Are you okay? Not why did you leave, or how could you do this to my daughter, but are you okay? That alone nearly knocked the breath out of me. I said nothing for a few seconds. I wasn't used to that tone, that softness. That genuine concern. I'm getting there. I replied, unsure what else to say. She exhaled like she'd been holding that breath for years. And then she said something I never expected. I've been praying you'd wake up someday, Evelyn whispered. That you'd finally realize you didn't deserve to be treated the way she treated you. I sat back, stunned. She said you humiliated her, I muttered. She humiliated herself, Evelyn said without hesitation. Dwight, I raised her. I know what she can be like. But watching her pick you apart these last few years, it wasn't just cruel. It was disgusting. You built her a life, and she spit on it. Hearing her say it, it did something to me. Validation from someone who had once told me I was lucky to have a woman like Lydia suddenly turned into something else. A kind of quiet justice. She's been calling me nonstop, Evelyn continued, sobbing, saying you've gone cold, that you're being heartless. But I told her, no, Lydia, you finally pushed him far enough that he stopped bleeding for you. I never thought I'd cry on the phone with my ex-wife's mother. But I did. Silent, heavy tears I hadn't even realized were waiting in me. She always said I was weak, I whispered. She confused kindness for weakness, Evelyn said. That's not your fault. That's hers. I don't know how long we talked. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2. She told me things I didn't know. That Lydia had been resenting me since she got passed up for a promotion. That she felt stuck in a marriage that didn't excite her anymore. That she once told her cousin she was only staying with me because he worships me too much to ever leave. She thought you were a permanent fixture, Evelyn said bitterly. Something she could criticize endlessly and still depend on to hold the roof over her head, literally and figuratively. I couldn't speak after that, because she was right. That's exactly what I had become. A structure, not a partner. A dependable tool she kept around out of convenience, not love. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my phone. I didn't look stronger, or bolder, or happier, but I looked like someone waking up after years of pretending to be asleep. Later that night, Lydia sent one more message. It said, I told Mom she doesn't know the whole story. She told me to stop calling her. You win. There it was again, like it was a contest. Like pain, loyalty, dignity, like those were points on a scoreboard, and I had somehow pulled ahead. But I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to survive. And for the first time in our entire relationship, someone, her own mother, finally saw that. I thought walking away from Lydia would feel like stepping off a sinking ship. Like escape. Like gulping in air after years underwater. And in some ways, it did. But what caught me off guard was how quiet freedom feels. It's not triumphant. There's no music. No grand epiphany. Just stillness. And for someone like me, who'd been surviving in chaos masked as normal, that silence was unnerving. The motel was small, and the mattress sagged in the middle like it had given up decades ago. But it was the first place in years where I didn't feel like I had to sleep with one emotional eye open. I didn't have to brace for a snide comment, a sarcastic sigh, a perfectly timed insult over burnt toast. I didn't have to worry about being seen as too much or not enough, all in the same day. I started noticing little things, like how I no longer flinched when my phone buzzed. I could open my messages without that gut drop feeling, wondering what new disappointment I'd caused simply by existing. I stopped muting my own playlists. Lydia hated the music I liked, said it was depressing and too slow. Now I blasted those same songs while brushing my teeth, humming like they belonged to someone who mattered. But here's the thing, it wasn't all relief. There was grief too, not for her, but for me. For the version of myself I lost trying to keep her love. For the thousand swallowed words. For all the apologies I gave for just being me. I grieved the man who spent so many years trying to prove that softness wasn't failure. That listening wasn't weakness. That holding someone through their storms meant more than winning an argument. And as soon as I let that grief exist, the strangest thing happened. I slept. Not napped. Not dozed off from exhaustion. I slept. Deep, uninterrupted, dreamless sleep. The kind I hadn't had since our second year of marriage. That morning, I didn't check my phone right away. I didn't brace for Lydia's voice in a voicemail. I just sat on the edge of the motel bed, sipping stale coffee, and stared out at the empty parking lot as the sun came up. And that's when I realized something I hadn't even dared to admit until then. I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I wasn't waiting for her to understand what she did. I wasn't waiting for her to say sorry. I wasn't waiting for her to become someone she never was. She'd always mocked the version of me that never stopped hoping, called it naive. But the real mistake wasn't hoping. It was hoping she'd change instead of realizing I could leave. Later that day, I called an old friend, Deacon. We hadn't spoken in years. Lydia never liked him. Said he was too blunt, too working class, too unpredictable. Translation, he didn't kiss her ring. He picked up on the second ring and said, "Well, I'll be damned. Is that Dwight?" I laughed for the first time in days. Not a pity laugh, not a mask, a real, surprised, belly-deep laugh. And Deacon said something I'll never forget. "Whatever finally broke, I'm proud of you for letting it break." That stuck with me, because for the first time, I wasn't trying to hold it all together. I wasn't duct taping a broken relationship just so it looked functional from the outside. I was letting it fall, letting it rot, letting it go. And the more I let go, the lighter I got. I still didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing for certain. Whatever it was, it wouldn't involve asking someone's permission to be respected. She finally found out where I was staying. I don't know how. Maybe she tracked my credit card. Maybe her mother slipped. But 5 days after I walked away, I opened my motel room door to see Lydia standing there in sunglasses and expensive flats, like she was about to walk into brunch instead of face the ruin she created. "I'm not here to fight," she said immediately, as if that was some kind of miracle. "I just want to talk." I should have closed the door. I didn't. She walked in like she still owned the place, like I was the one who needed explaining to. She barely looked around. Didn't even flinch at the peeling wallpaper or the humming AC unit rattling in the window. "This place is depressing," she said under her breath. I sat on the edge of the bed and waited. She stood there for a second like she expected me to offer her a seat, or tea, or forgiveness. When I didn't, she launched into her performance. "You really made me look horrible, Dwight. My own mother won't speak to me. My coworkers are asking questions. You ghosted me. What was I supposed to say?" And just like that, I saw it clearly. She wasn't there for me. She was there because her image had taken a hit. I stayed quiet. So she doubled down. "I know I said things I shouldn't have. I know I joked too much. But you never told me it hurt. You just smiled and took it. You never pushed back, Dwight. You let me believe it was fine." Unreal. She had just blamed me for her cruelty. I let her keep going, nodding slowly. She talked about communication and misunderstandings, about how couples go through rough patches, and how I chose the nuclear option. And then, when she ran out of steam, she finally looked at me like she expected something. Maybe regret. Maybe an apology of my own. What she got was silence. "You're not even going to say anything?" she asked. And I finally did. I stood up, slow, steady, walked to the little motel desk, and picked up the only thing I'd written since I left, a grocery list. I crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. "You remember our second anniversary?" I asked. She blinked, caught off guard. "You had the flu," I continued. "We were supposed to go to that Italian place. You cried because you felt guilty, and I stayed home, made you soup, and held your hair while you threw up." She narrowed her eyes. "What does that? Or the time your car broke down at 2 a.m. and I drove 3 hours to get you because your phone was dying and you didn't want to wait for a tow truck?" Her jaw tightened. I stepped closer. "Or when you thought you were pregnant and we sat in the bathroom for 45 minutes, both shaking, and I told you no matter what happened, I wasn't going anywhere." She looked down, arms crossed now. "And what did I get in return, Lydia?" I asked, my voice cracking for the first time. Mocked, belittled, called a coward because I didn't scream at waiters or throw tantrums like some cartoon alpha. She tried to speak. I didn't let her. "You called me a coward because I didn't fight back. But I was never trying to fight you. I was trying to love you. And you twisted that into weakness because strength, to you, has always meant dominance." The room was dead quiet. "I let you talk today," I said, stepping back. "Because for once, I wanted you to hear yourself. You didn't come to apologize. You came to rewrite the ending. But Lydia, this isn't your story anymore." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, blinking hard, like someone watching a fire they didn't think could spread. Then she asked, in the softest voice I'd heard from her in years, "Is there any way back from this?" And I answered honestly, "There was. But you burned it. And then you laughed while it burned." She left without another word. This time, I didn't watch her go. I just sat back down on the bed. Not victorious. Not broken. Just free. A week passed without contact. After that motel conversation, I thought maybe, just maybe, She had finally accepted that I was done. Not angry, not bitter, just gone. And I was learning to live with that peace, even if it still felt foreign in my chest, like silence after a long, chaotic storm. Then, out of nowhere, she emailed me. The subject line was one word: closure. I stared at it for almost an hour before opening it. I didn't want drama. I didn't want more manipulation. But curiosity is a funny thing, especially when it's been starved for so long. I clicked it open. It was long, polished, thoughtful on the surface. She thanked me for everything I did for her over the years. She said she was reflecting deeply and realized how her humor had crossed lines. It sounded like growth, like she finally saw the damage. There were even lines about how she envied my kindness and how she hoped one day she could learn from the way I loved. For a second, I felt something twist in my stomach, a sliver of doubt, a tiny voice whispering, maybe she's changing. Maybe you left right before the turning point. But then I reached the last paragraph, the one that ruined everything. It started off fine, until I read, I know you don't like confrontation, so I've been trying to be more like Chase. Open, direct, honest. My eyes froze. Chase? Who the hell was Chase? She never mentioned a Chase. I read the sentence again. It didn't make sense. Unless that final paragraph wasn't meant for me. I scrolled back up, searched through the text again, and sure enough, halfway through the email, the tone had shifted. Less you, more he. Then I realized she had copied and pasted this email. She had written some version of this letter to someone else. Probably was writing to someone else. Maybe Chase was a rebound. Or worse, not a rebound at all. I just stared at the screen, my pulse thudding in my ears. She tried to recycle closure. She tried to template her apology like I was an item on a checklist, a name in a form letter. Suddenly, the flattery felt fake. The reflection felt rehearsed. The entire email unraveled in front of me like some corporate damage control, not a human attempt at real accountability. I didn't respond, but I did hit forward. I sent the email to her mother, Evelyn, with no subject, no message, just the letter. 2 hours later, Evelyn called me. I know you didn't send that to be petty, she said. You sent it to show me who she really is. I didn't send it for any reason, I replied. I just didn't want to be the only one who saw it. There was a pause. She was seeing someone else before you left? Evelyn said carefully. She didn't tell me directly, but I'm not stupid. There were signs. Guilt, sudden defensiveness, long weekends where she said she needed space. I just didn't know his name until now. Chase. Of course. All those nights I thought she was blowing off steam with friends. All those mornings she came back, exhausted from yoga and needed me time. And the worst part? I wasn't even shocked. Not really. Just numb. Like my brain had already filed her under emotional bankruptcy and no new charges could stick. She doesn't deserve another minute of your grief, Evelyn said. And if she tries to win you back now, it's not about love. It's about losing control. After I hung up, I reread the email one last time. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just deleted it. And for the first time, I understood that the man she tried to mock in his silence, he was gone. And what replaced him wasn't hardened or cold. It was something far more dangerous to a person like Lydia. It was a man who no longer needed her to understand. 3 months after that final email, I moved out of the motel and into a small one-bedroom apartment above a quiet bookstore downtown. It wasn't fancy. The plumbing made weird noises. The heating was slow in the mornings. But it was mine. Every inch of it was chosen by me, arranged by me, filled with peace, not pressure. And that alone made it feel like a castle. I started cooking again. Real cooking. Not rushed dinners that always came with comments like, this needs more seasoning, or my mom makes it better. I cooked what I liked, how I liked it. Some nights it was 3-cheese lasagna. Some nights it was cereal and wine. Either way, no one mocked me for it. I reconnected with Deacon. We'd meet once a week at a food truck and just talk. No masks. No small talk. Real stuff. He was the first person who looked me in the eye and said, you were never the weak one. You just kept giving the strong parts of yourself to someone who didn't know how to carry them. One Friday afternoon, I was helping him set up shelves in his garage when he handed me a flyer. Community centers looking for volunteers, he said. You're good with tools. Might as well do it for someone who appreciates it. That led me to a weekend program teaching basic repairs to single dads, veterans, and even teenagers who never had a role model show them how to patch drywall, or fix a loose hinge. I didn't expect much, but those Saturday mornings turned into something sacred. I saw men who had been dismissed, overlooked, mocked for their quiet too, just like I had. One of the kids, a shy 17-year-old named Miles, stayed behind after class one day. He looked at me and asked, "How'd you learn all this?" I smiled. "Pain taught me," I said, but peace made me better at it. There was no dramatic run-in with Lydia, no final confrontation, no letters, no apologies, no "I've changed" texts. She faded out like background noise after a bad song ends. I heard she moved to a different city. I hope she finds what she's looking for, truly. But I no longer need to see it happen, because I didn't just walk away from her. I walked back to myself. And what I've learned is this: healing doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like folding your own laundry without being criticized. Sometimes it looks like sleeping through the night without checking your phone in fear. Sometimes it's silence, not because someone is giving you the cold shoulder, but because you're finally warm inside your own skin. One night, I stood on the roof of the community center after class, watching the sun fall behind the hills. I thought about that first roof, her mother's, where I'd once bled for love and been laughed at for it. Now here I was, still holding a hammer, still helping. Only now, I wasn't the joke. I was the builder. Of homes, of trust, of a new self that didn't need to be louder, tougher, or meaner. Just whole, just real. And this time, I didn't need anyone to validate that I was finally strong, because I already knew.